All right, let's get rolling. Gaetano, thank you for joining. I don't think you'll need an intro, but I'll still do a little bit. Growth advisor to top SaaS companies that probably most of us in the space have heard of, like Hockey Stack and Demandbase. I initially found you through you co-starting Demand Gen Live with Chris Walker, I think in 2020, sorry, during the pandemic, and then obviously thought leader on LinkedIn on all things SEO, content, demand capture. So pretty excited to get rolling here. Anything to add to that, Gaetano?
Man, you're too kind. Thank you.
Recent father, how's fatherhood?
Yeah, very, very difficult. It's much harder job being a dad than working with all those companies.
How old is the little one?
He's 4.5 months.
Oh yeah. I did not work for, I would say, the first 6 months, or like an hour a day or 2 hours a day.
Yeah, I only took a week off.
Oh shit, yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah. So for everybody on the call, I don't know what your situations are, but if you are a lone wolf, freelancer, solo, whatever you're doing, that's not tied to any company benefits, this is part of the downside.
Right.
You shut off and money stops flowing. So there's tons of pros and cons associated with being your own boss. You can really dictate what you want, but one of the downsides is you don't get those nice 6 months paid time off, parental leave, benefits. You just don't get that.
Yeah. The first question I had when I was doing my research, obviously looked you up, and I was like wondering what's going on with that website. Is that still your main gig?
Yeah, Katya, exactly. So this is funny you brought it up. It's about to be updated.
Okay.
Because I've just kind of let this kind of go for too long. This has been the same for like 5 years, and I still write like topics about the music industry in my spare time on my blog, but this is like from like an old life, to be honest with you.
That's what it looked like to me. I was like, I'm gonna risk, but that's what it looked like to me like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, no, in fact, I'll give you guys the Figma, and you guys can see what I'm actually revamping it, and it's going to be way, way, way better. I'll actually drop the link here so you guys can see it, what it's going to be. And then if you want to keep your screen shared, do that and maybe just show everybody. But
can collect the feedback on.
Yeah, sure. It's good, but yeah, it's one of those.
Wait, where did you drop the link?
Oh, here you go in the chat.
Get there.
It's one of those things, do you need a personal website? I don't know. A lot of people will say, yes, you do. But this, basically what I realized that I needed to do was separate, like you can't really talk about two things that are different in like your personal branding.
Right.
Like me being like musician and digital marketer, I have to separate this out now.
I agree.
I used to think I could combine it into one. You'll see that with like my old site, but I've taken down all the like marketing topics about like demand gen and B2B SaaS. And now my personal website that is like about like the music that I produce and write is only going to be about music. And I have a different website coming out called Marketing Advice. Very original name, I guess. It's just going to be called Marketing Advice. That's going to be the brand name.
.com? Did you get the .com?
I couldn't get the .com. I got the .io. I don't know how you guys feel about .io versus .com.
I mean, my company is project33.io, so I'm fine with it. But
yeah, I mean, I guess .io it can work for sure. Maybe it matters less than it used to, but I'll show you guys Marketing Advice as well. And I think you guys will see the vibe is totally different from my personal music brand site versus the Marketing Advice website. So I'll put the Figma in here for the Marketing Advice.
Is anyone in there running a website agency or something like that? Development? Oh yeah, it's very different.
You can go to G Home. Yeah. So go all the way there and just zoom into the homepage. Yeah, and you guys will see I had to go through this very annoying exercise of separating my, if you're a multifaceted person, you do something like music production and you are in the world of B2B, you have to separate it out now. Even to an extent, your social profile topics and your social posting strategies, right? Like if I started posting about music and pizza on my LinkedIn, engagement would tank. So
Do you think, to make this a
sit
broader point, do you think that is because people have changed, because the algorithms have changed, because the content landscape is just so saturated that it's just really hard to kind of do both at the same time? What do you think?
I think it's all of the above for sure. It kind of reminds me also of the way SEO is changing. Topical focus and topical authority matters more now than it used to. So like there's been several examples of sites that cover a lot of topics, especially affiliate sites. They try to rank for everything under the sun. You used to be able to get away with it. There was a guy, I don't want to call him out. Actually, it's not a big deal. I'll just call him out. It's nothing negative. His name is Adam Enfroy. He had a affiliate website that covered like so many topics: blogging, CMS, like SEO tools, like all design stuff, like all kinds of stuff. And you can see that his only goal was to rank in Google and like get money from like affiliate link clicks. And because there were so many wacky topics, and he was probably doing some stuff that he probably shouldn't have been doing with in regard to links and other stuff, maybe automated content of some type. The site got crushed, like it tanked. And so I've even seen bigger news publishers face the same fate. And I see it also with B2B SaaS as well. Like if your flagship product is, say, employee monitoring software, and now you want to start to rank for things that like are not really so closely related to that, like say insider threat, it's harder to do that because you have to stick to your flagship product topical realm. It's harder to break out of that. So yeah, back to the point of social posting is kind of the same. It was hard for Ren Fishkin to get recognized for non-SEO. For so long, it was SEO. He had to actually like change his style of like social content for many years before he's finally now associated with a broader set of topics outside of just hardcore SEO.
Right. Interesting. All right. Before we go further, a couple things for you guys in here. I obviously have a bunch of questions for Gaetano. Gaetano, you usually talk about SEO. I want to explore social content and LinkedIn with you because clearly you're an OG and crushing there too. But you guys probably all showed up for a reason. Something that you're struggling with, a question you have, a problem you have, something you're trying to figure out. And so this should be useful to you. So feel free to either unmute yourself at any point and jump in with the question that you have to troubleshoot with Gaetano live here on that call, or drop it in the chat at any point and I'll try to weave it into the conversation. I don't want this to be just a passive back and forth between Gaetano and me and you guys watching, right? Like jump in at any point if you feel like you have a question or you can add something.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to know everybody who joined, why you joined, what you're doing. If you want to drop it in there.
Hey, there you go. See, Gaetano is already much more experienced at this whole live event thing than me. He already knows how to.
Yeah. Well, if it's a small group like this, you can get to the bottom of some stuff.
Yeah.
If it's a like with the Chris Walker events, they were like very noisy. So if you don't moderate, then the whole time you'll just be talking, hey, there's Matthew. Yeah, if you don't moderate the whole time, you'll just be basically fielding questions from audience members nonstop, and then there won't really be any. It'll just be like a live, Steve Harvey show.
Right. So you guys can unmute or put things in the chat. You've been around on LinkedIn for a while, Gaetano. Maybe a couple things for people who are starting. How do you feel like it has changed over the last couple of years? Posting, what topics resonate, what performs, what doesn't perform, how people write content. What do you feel like is different now than maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Well, a few years ago, it was less saturated, less noise, less people were posting. And if you were a early sort of crusader in LinkedIn, you could really do some serious damage. I think now it is a little bit harder, but what I've actually learned in all this is even having the biggest expanded reach is not usually the best. So a lot of people, they want to be famous. They want to be Gary D of LinkedIn, of B2B. My advice is that it probably should not be your goal to be the most popular voice or the widest, most expansive reach. It should actually be to have the deepest possible reach within the most relevant people that are out there for you. So what is your goal? If it's, you can use me as an example. Like, I kind of knew early on in my career that eventually I would be on my own. And so I knew that I would be doing SEO consulting and Google Ads consulting, sort of search content consulting someday. And so what I realized that I needed to do was actually just focus on connecting with B2B marketers. That's kind of a big pool, but not product marketers, not people doing RevOps, not ABM marketers, not event marketers, but people who are in this growth, demand gen, SEO, ads space. These are the right people for me to be connecting with, because I know someday these are the people who will want to hire me. And probably also B2B SaaS, CMOs, VPs of marketing, those kinds of titles. And so when I didn't have really any connections in the space, I began really there, just sending maybe 10 to 15 connection requests per week, while also posting about stuff that I was doing at companies publicly. So I was doing the building in public thing while I was hired as an employee, because I knew I would be transitioning out of that someday. I didn't know when, but I laid the groundwork while I was, on the company dime, so to speak.
Employers love that.
They hate it. They don't like it. So I think they're more accepting to it now. There's like Refined Labs as an example. They want every employee there to be posting, because that just creates more of a network effect, overall reach for the company. But the companies I was working at did not like it. And in fact, I became too loud. I became too seen, too many views. And it's bad when you get, when you are the most popular, so to speak, person at the company, you're getting more engagement online than the CEO. That's generally not liked, especially when you, are maybe stirring the pot or doing some controversial posts or whatever. And so that's generally not welcomed. So maybe I'll stop there.
Right. We also got a couple comments here. So Michal said, "Hi there, Michal. I'm starting a startup that will be the next Gen G2, Clue AI, helping to pick the best business software with AI. I am here to learn how to grow on LinkedIn." Katya already seems interested in the product. Larry, been following Gaetano for a while on LinkedIn. The obvious question is how he finds the time to write all those posts on a regular basis. So I guess maybe here, Gaetano, what's your approach? What's your process? How do you keep track of your ideas? How do you approach LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'll show you guys what I do, and this hopefully can make it super easy for you. So I have scheduled posts whenever I have an idea. So actually, I will read something. I only have one thing scheduled for right now, but whenever the inspiration strikes or whenever something comes up that I feel is post worthy, I just go ahead and plunk it out. Maybe it takes me, 10 to 15 minutes maybe to write something like this. And I schedule it. And sometimes there can be a week where I don't have anything scheduled and I don't post anything, and that's fine. It's just because no inspiration has really struck me. And I think that is an important thing to note. You don't always have to have this pressure to feel like you need to post. If you don't have any inspiration, that's fine. It'll come. So just wait for it to come. But in this case, I was thinking about zero-click content and how this is a direct conflict with how executives want to measure marketing. I see this in my day-to-day. And, thankfully, maybe not thankfully, but, in SEO, there's still a lot of SEO traffic right now, but we are seeing traffic erosion happening. All the things we're talking about with social platforms, this is nothing new. You really can't get traffic to your website anymore from LinkedIn. I mean, it's very, very small amount. X is the same thing. Instagram, it's not meant to send traffic to websites. Reddit, not meant to send traffic to websites. YouTube, not meant to send traffic to websites. Podcasts, not meant to send traffic to websites. Live events like this, not meant to send traffic to websites. Corporate email newsletters, people are not really subscribing to those anymore. They would rather subscribe to somebody on Substack or Beehive, an individual content creator. Anyway, the reason I post this is because it's actually something I'm dealing with. It's something I've been thinking about, and I scheduled it, right? That's basically my strategy. Is whenever something comes up, I schedule it, and that's basically it. So it's nothing fancy or special.
I love it. I have a couple follow-up questions. One, you said whenever you have something post-worthy, how do you evaluate whether an idea or thought is post-worthy?
I really just zoom out and I think, and I look through my feed a little bit, and I just kind of wonder, like, are a lot of people talking about this right now? Is this being overly posted about? Is this like a generic cliche thing? If it is a big topic, is it something that I have a unique spin on? I just kind of ask myself those questions. I try to avoid just sort of like re-echoing things that are like, commonly talked about things. So I don't know. I don't beat myself up too hard over it. But I just try to keep it as natural as I can. But if I do feel like it's a cliche, overly posted about thing, I avoid it.
So I guess one, the precondition for that is you actually have a pulse on kind of what's the conversation right now in your space.
Yes. I always have a pulse on what's going on, and everyone should. You should always kind of just be aware of what are people talking about, what's being posted about, what are the threads that are getting lots of engagement. You should just be kind of aware of these things as you're in your day to day. You shouldn't be completely oblivious to what's going on out there.
Do you have some, I don't know, time efficient way to do this? Because I feel like just scrolling LinkedIn can sometimes also just end up doom scrolling, and you spend an hour and you're like, I don't even know what I just read or learned. I don't know if I learned anything.
Yeah, you can totally end up doing a lot of doom scrolling. I think, being subscribed to the right people can definitely help a lot. Like, there's certain people that I actually have the alarm bell on for, so I pay attention to certain voices more than others, I would say. I think, on X, you can curate your own lists. So I have a list actually called Marketing Geniuses that I've created. I only subscribe to a few newsletters, and I only read certain things. There's only a few creators that I really stick to. So, like, I don't know, you have to filter out noise as much as you can. And I regularly, I've never said this before, but I'll just say it, I regularly block and unfollow people that, like, I just think, all right, this is terrible. I just want to filter that out as much as I can.
All right, Matthew says we need one person in your marketing genius list, but then we also need one list on your block list. Who did not make the cut recently?
Yeah, from my marketing genius list, Dave Kellogg. He's not like the loudest person out there, but he's like more of like a marketing scientist at the executive SaaS level. He's a guy that's always talking about, like, marketing metrics and SaaS metrics and how he coaches CEOs on marketing. Like, he's very high level dude, but super smart. I like hearing that perspective because I'm into very tactical stuff. Like, you see the stuff Chris Walker is talking about. I'm a layer below that. I'm at the very tactical channel level. And I actually prefer that because that's where I thrive. I'm not great at the big marketing overarching strategy level. I'm great at, hey, I know SEO is a channel we need to conquer. I know paid search is something we need to conquer. We suck at content. We need to fix it. We have leaky buckets in our website. We need to fix it. I'm great at that stuff. And that's also why I went down this path in my career. I'd rather be doing this with companies who just want to focus on that with me rather than grow into like a people leader. It's just not my bag, Anyway, I feel like I drifted away from the main question. I forgot what it was.
Block list. Who was on your block list?
Block list. Yeah, unfortunately, Justin Welsh didn't make the cut.
Same for me, actually.
Yeah, just shit like that. Just not gonna do it for me. A dude named Brandon Hufford didn't make the cut. There's probably a few others, but there aren't many others actually. But I'll spare you the pain.
I think Justin figured something out, but it's just too repetitive for me. It's just like always kind of something generic, high level, and kind of the same thing over and over again. So it's just like simple.
Formulaic. I'm generally not a fan of someone that bases their LinkedIn fame off of how much money they're making from other people. I'm generally, I personally, I believe there's zero value in sharing how much money you make online with other people. There's just absolutely zero value in doing that. Like posting screenshots of MRR, like totally old at this point. Sorry, Adam Robinson. Love you. Love you, but dude, you're totally old. We get it. You're crushing it, but who cares, man? Like, come on, so.
I don't know. I think the only point where I would disagree here is that I feel like separating signal from the noise, and we want to listen to people who have credibility, and credibility usually means they walk the walk. And so it depends on what you talk about. If you talk about SEO, like I want to see the proof that you've actually helped some people like drive like some real traffic. And if you, I don't know, give investment advice, like I want to see that you have a decent net worth, because if you're like one of those financial advisors who's poor, like, I don't know, I don't think I want your financial advice,
Yeah. Point taken. I think, there's a way to do it with some class and some elegance. I think just constantly harping on that over and over again. It's like, all right, we get it. Like, you're doing well. It can be quite obnoxious.
Yeah, so we have a follow-up question here from Matteo, and then I have a bunch more. This all makes sense regarding not needing to post every day when you already have 40 to 50,000 followers. But how would this advice change if you had to start from scratch today?
And just unmute myself to add more color to that. Hi, Gaetano.
Go for it.
Hey.
It's just like exactly, especially in 2024, when there's a lot of noise, as you said, out there, and it's so hard to emerge. And it's not just about me as a fellow advisor like yourself, like wanting to maybe like start making a name for myself and establish my authority or credibility and get some more leads, but also for the founders that I advise and they want to start to, like get some like founder-led brand going on to, just make themselves known. Right. And kick off that conversation and that thought leadership POV, I think these days is like harder than ever. Right. So how do you, what would you tell them to do? Basically, like, what are the 3 key steps?
Yeah. I think so. One of the things that you could use to give you unlimited LinkedIn content ideas and make it very relevant to who you want to reach is building something called a problem identification chart. I'll show you the SEO version that I have created for myself. And I use this even on sales calls with clients because I walk them through I show them that I know every single problem that you might have. I know also what the root cause of all those problems are. I know the impact of those problems. And so you can talk about this endlessly, a million different ways, but like, in SEO, you really only have these sets of problems. Organic traffic is 0. You can post a million different ways about why that happens. Root causes, not a priority. Why do companies not prioritize SEO? That can be a whole content play right there. No content process. That can be a whole thing you can rip apart. Team lacks SEO skills for growth. That could be a rant. Organic traffic is declining. I have done many teardowns of other companies that are tanking. Why? Zoom Info, outranked by competitors, content decay, Google algorithm updates, search demand naturally drops. You basically you go through the list of all the problems that your clients might have. What is the impact? And then rip apart each root cause. All of these little things can be content topics. And so I like to keep it very problem solution focused. I think this maybe answers your question around how do I get inspiration? How do I keep thinking of things to post? I would start with something like this: problem, impact, root cause, solution. And then in terms of the reach, what matters is your first degree connections see shit more. The second and third degree connections don't really see as much. They only see what gets amplified and radiated from the first degree connections. So if you don't have a lot of first degree connections, then it's not going to spread too much. So that means you need to actually identify like who is not a member of my network, who is not a first degree connection. And you probably need to send like 10, 20, 30 outreach messages, connection requests per week, per month, however many you want to do. But find the people who matter, find the people who you would want to be clients of yours someday, other people that you just would want to amplify your content. Use the various different filtering methods when you search for name, title, company, whoever, and just send a simple connection request to each of those people every week. You used to be able to automate this, but LinkedIn doesn't want you doing that. I haven't done that in many years, but I used to use an automation tool to help, to be honest. It didn't do that much for me, so I stopped using it. But that's the key. You need to grow your first degree connections. Without that, it's going to be harder to get reach. So you need to spend time sending connection requests to people who matter. And so if I was starting all over again, that's the way I would approach it.
Now you post like once a week, 3 times a week? Like, would you look at your chart and be like, twice a week, I'm going to pick one of those boxes and write something about it? Or would you still wait until you feel like you have something meaningful to say about any of those?
Yeah, I would stick minimum once a week is good. Also, what I've learned is from my experience, the people who post every day, they basically drown their networks too fast. And you also lose out on valuable, what I call dwell time. I noticed that posts can really linger around for longer amounts of time if you don't push them down with more posting. Now, that is assuming that the post itself is getting some good engagement, you're responding to comments. I think that matters quite a lot. And so if you're just posting every day, not interacting with the comments, also all the second degree and third degree connections who like and comment on your stuff, you need to go and connect with them. That's the other little hack. Like if they're already warm, then it's easier to just add them as a connection request. But I think I would even buy LinkedIn Premium if I was really serious about it. I never did that, but I think today, I think you get a little bit of a boost if you buy LinkedIn Premium. You can also see who's, lurking on your profile. That I think is interesting. I've viewed some people's profiles and they've came back to me with a message and said, "Hey, thanks for stopping by my profile." I thought that was kind of clever. They actually have gone that far to see that you've been at their profile, looking at their stuff. So, I think minimum once a week I would stick to. In some cases, twice a week. Like if something flops, then I try to post again to push it down because it wasn't so great. But I think, that's kind of how I would approach it.
One follow-up on that, and this is more like, I guess a little bit personal because I struggle with that. I really love that philosophy of just posting when inspiration hits, and sometimes it doesn't hit and then you just don't post. But it's like, I don't know, I have a business and LinkedIn is one of the main ways, if not the only way, how I'm getting customers. And I'm assuming it's for you and you're a freelancer or a consultant or an advisor, however you want to call it. And you now have a little baby that needs to be fed. So like, how do you deal with that emotional of like, well, if I don't have inspiration, then I don't know, maybe pipeline's going to be not as, I don't know. How do you deal with the
ebbs and flows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like the stock market. It's not just going to keep going up and up and up. When you're on your own as a solo lone wolf consultant, you're going to have crazy hot periods and you're going to have cool periods as well. But what you have to remember is that in the long run, you're going to come out on top. You're going to be fine. There's so many businesses out there who need marketing help. It's crazy. Like it's an endless, I don't view anybody as my competition. I'm actually friends with all the other consultants and agencies out there. We actually refer leads to each other and stuff because there's just so much out there. You're really never going to have a true dry spell. I think what you've got to do, what's most important is find out, number one, what are you so good at? Like, what is your best strength and specialize there? For me, it's been SEO and paid search, Google ads, really all things search marketing. If you can brand yourself around something like that, that's high demand, pays well, everyone has a problem with it, I think, and then the second part is nail the credibility aspect. So publish a couple of case studies, pin them to your site, to your profile, be on the podcasting circuit, talk about your wins, showcase your wins. Don't be shy about it. You do those two things long enough, it's like investing in the S&P. You're gonna come out on top in the long run. You're guaranteed to succeed after 5 years of sticking with it. You're gonna succeed. It's guaranteed. You just gotta stick with it. It's not gonna happen in a year or maybe even 2 years. It does take time, but I've been doing this, since 2017 now, almost 10-year run, sticking with LinkedIn, been in B2B marketing even longer. So what I'm feasting now because I'm feasting on compounding. That's all I'm doing. I'm just feasting on the compounding network effect. If you look at the sales guys like Barrows, Scott Leese, all those guys, they're not overnight successes. I mean, Barrows, nobody knows this guy's story. He was on a flight 300 days a year, going to different places, doing in-person sales training before, virtual was so widely accepted. I mean, he had a hard grind to get to where he's at. And so, like, a lot of these people that you see are not necessarily overnight successes. It does take time, but I think that's the point.
All right, let me go through some comments because there's a lot of things here. So Karn said, hey, Finn brings an amazing guest, so here for another great chat. I work with C-Suite to help build their brand on LinkedIn. Curious to know why Gaetano chooses not to talk about music on LinkedIn, given that a lot of personal stories happen on LinkedIn. A la, like, here's what so-and-so taught me, such and such taught me about B2B sales. Like, I guess the broader question here is whether you should talk about personal life stuff.
I think it's valid. I have done quite a bit of it, actually. And it has received good feedback and good engagement. I just haven't done it in a while, but I'll show you guys some examples. I think it's totally on the table for sure. People like hearing the behind the scenes sort of takes. So let me just go to some history. I haven't done it in a while, but here we go. I got featured on some site, a musician turned B2B marketing superstar, Gaetano DiNardi's underdog story. Kind of a cheesy headline, but it worked. It got some good engagement. I had another one here where I posted about tattoos and being normalized in the workplace. You guys can't see my body, but I'm pretty loaded. I don't have even any clear spaces on my arms anymore. So, posting about stuff like that did pretty good. I used to do a little Music Monday jam session. Yeah. I did a couple of Italian songs. I did the Godfather theme song, Brucia la Terra. So, yeah, it can work. It can totally work. I mean, I haven't done it in a while just because, I'm freaking tired, but it can totally work. It can totally work. So don't be afraid to, be yourself. I think where it backfires is if it's like too much and too cheesy and like too forced. Like, don't try and be funny if you're not funny. You don't just try and do comedy now because everybody's doing comedy skits. If comedy is not part of who you are, don't do it. I've been a musician my whole life, so it's just natural. But yeah, so I think that's a great question. Don't be shy about who you are, but, let it come natural.
And I think I would just add one comment, and that ties back to what you said earlier, that, you need to have a relevant audience and then post relevant stuff for them. And if you want to attract, B2B marketers and SEO people, and then you talk about, I don't know, work-life balance, it's like, how relevant is that specifically to SEO people? Probably some, but also to a bunch of other people. And so even if you get 100 likes on that post, how many of those will be actually relevant people for you to actually sell to? It's like probably a small percentage. So There's metrics, and then there's also vanity metrics, right? And that's what I think vanity metrics are.
Yeah, if you stray too far off the beaten path, it could backfire a little bit. But I will also say, you never know who's out there that's also a musician that, is now going to see that and say, hey, this is a CMO at a, $100 million SaaS company who's also a guitar player, saw that and now likes me even more.
Right.
Now has even more respect for me. It could be, you put a couple of chips on the roulette table and that just happened to hit, a lucky number. That also happens. So, I think you got to be in it to win it. But I think, just be careful. You don't stray too far off the beaten path, because then you get a little bit too wacky and then it's just, you fall off the rails and then forget it.
Yeah. Just as a follow-up on that, Gaetano. So, because you also mentioned you're in this phase of compounding, right? You put in a lot of work over a period of time. So let's assume you're saying, okay, you post once a week and you're doing that through the year. But if you start now, would you say the cumulative value right now, because a lot of people are focused on LinkedIn as a medium, just talking about your work once a week, every week, versus interspersing with some of these personal stories? If you had to choose, which one would you choose today?
If I had to choose only one, I would not choose the personal stories, the life stories. I would talk about the actual work. I would talk about what I'm seeing in the field. I would talk about the more tactical expertise stuff, because that's just more relevant, and that just attracts the right kinds of people. But the other part of the personal life stuff too is that a lot of people use that as like a cheesy engagement bait way to sort of like, hook you in, and you almost feel like someone is weaseling their way into getting your attention. Like, oh, I see it all the time. Like a very recent one I just saw was like, oh, me and my husband just got married. Oh, by the way, we both got laid off, so we're looking for jobs. And the post and the photo in the post was like their wedding. Totally not appropriate. And even if it gets a lot of content, engagement, totally corny. Maybe it'll work. Maybe someone will feel bad and, for them enough to help them get a job or whatever. But like, so corny in my opinion, and not the route you want to be taking. That's just me.
I mean, the moment it sounds salesy, people see through that.
Totally.
All right. Thank you, Karn. Lottie asks, or says first, G's tone of voice is refreshingly human compared to other LinkedIn creators. Do you follow any tone of voice or formatting guidelines when you write? Do you intentionally use lists, white space, or anything else to help with readability? I feel like it's hard to do this and still write authentically.
Thank you. Gosh, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. I'm not Justin Welsh. I don't have a template. I don't have a script. I don't have I just kind of this is just the way I do it, and it just comes natural, and that's all I can really tell you. I don't use one thing I do try and be aware of is does this sentence really need to be there, or can it be removed? I do try and keep things as concise as I can. I saw a post from someone the other day that it was really good. It said when I click the see more and it opens up and it's this massive post loaded with text, my brain shuts off and I keep scrolling. That's Adam Robinson. He does these massive, building in public. It's just so much. It's who has time? I want to make my point, and I don't want to really draw it out too much unless it really requires, mini essays, totally. Unless it requires me to do that. And if it requires me to do that, why aren't I making a video about this? And so, I try to remove fluff, keep it simple, keep it concise. Sometimes I use the list formula because it's just easy and it's just simple. There's no other rhyme or reason behind it. I try to write it like how I speak. I don't use any tools or formulas or scripts or templates. That's all I can tell you.
I love it. I've got to point out something which I think is probably obvious to people, but because when you say this, that you kind of just post when inspiration hits, maybe once a week, sometimes not. You don't really follow any formula. Then it's like, well, that sounds easy. Why can't I be that? And I think the answer is here because you not only have obviously years of experience, but you're consulting with some of the fastest growing companies and brands in the space, and you've driven some really incredible results, and you have your hands in the dirt. Like, you work with these teams all the time, 1-to-1. You don't have a team of SEO people who then do the work while you just like bring in sales. So like you have actual expertise, and that's why it works, because you're a craftsperson and this is your craft, and you are a thought leader before you put out stuff. Like, you need to actually be a thought leader to have thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But it is true. Being busy and actually being in there is the best fuel for everything you need. You think LeBron James has a hard time thinking about what to talk about in interviews? No, because he's playing so much basketball that there's endless things that he could talk about. Same deal kind of here. I'm in it so much. I'm just in it, man. Like I want to get out of it. I'm in it too deep. I'm in it so much that I don't have to think twice. It's just comes second nature.
Love it. All right, Katja, before I get to your question, I had this question, and I know it's a stupid question, but maybe you can speak to this. As someone who is clearly an SEO expert and specialist, how come you're not generating leads through your own SEO blog on your website and instead going on LinkedIn, doing social content to create demand for your own thing?
It's a phenomenal question, because you're probably not going to get the right kinds of people that you want when you, like, if I were to rank for like B2B SaaS consultant or, B2B SEO consultant, I mean, I'm sure I would get some good lead flow, but, I tend to have a certain kind of company profile I like to work with. I don't want to do any e-commerce, for example. I don't want to do too much SMB. I don't want to do things that are commoditized. I have a certain kind of like profile of client that I like to work with. And they tend to just find me through the network effect. And I also have such a strong referral play, and I have such a good personal brand through social that I've actually kind of defeated myself at my own game. I've created enough demand that I don't need to capture it, if that makes sense. So I think the lesson too is that, I think Refine Labs has like a similar problem. It's not really a problem. It's just a thing. It's an environmental thing, but it's, if they ranked for B2B demand gen agency, how many of those are going to be great fit clients? Maybe a small amount. Same deal with me. If I rank for B2B SEO consultant, probably only 10% of them would really be good fit clients. And I think I beat myself at my own game with this. So I basically have created the demand instead.
Yep. All right. Katja asks, what do you think about creating content from scratch and then versus repurposing stuff for articles, blogs, podcasts? Maybe you can speak both ways, turning a blog into a LinkedIn post into a blog.
Yeah, it can definitely work. I think you just need to format it accordingly. Like long blog post passages in a LinkedIn post doesn't really work. You kind of have to just give the summary with your point of view attached to it as well. Like, I think the problem with a lot of blog content is that it doesn't really have a point of view. A lot of it is just sort of like, the 10 engineering KPIs you must track. Well, why must I track these 10? It's just a list of the KPIs you could track, right? So I think adding your perspective to the thing that you're writing about is definitely important when considering reposting or repurposing. But repurposing can absolutely work. And a dirty little secret, a lot of your favorite content creators are actually just recycling the same post from 6 months ago. They go into their history and they say, okay, what LinkedIn, I think you can see in the last year, what was your most engaged post maybe or you do it manually. I don't know, but a lot of them just sort of sometimes it's almost copy paste. And if you notice, a lot of the same popular people, you're like, did this person talk about this recently? You can't remember when, but you're like, it's a good post. I'll like it anyway. This was completely recycled from 6 months ago. So all your favorite creative, Justin Welsh, for sure, doing it every other week, I think. Yeah, so a lot of them are doing it. It's not necessarily bad. It works. I think just adding your flavor to it is what counts, Understanding that this is LinkedIn and adding your personal twist to it matters.
Mosh asks, can you dive deeper into why in-house content writer is the worst role in B2B marketing? And does the same apply for junior SEO, social design roles?
I mean, this is a horrible role. I mean, think about, I don't know if you guys went to university, but like, think about like the line cooks at like a college university kitchen. They got to cook, they got to make salads. They got to do paninis. They got to have soup going. They got to do pasta. They got to have desserts. Like it's just like a million different things and no one cares. If you're the in-house content writer, it's like the same. You're just the order taker. I had this come up in a client campaign. They're like, hey, we need an in-house content writer. And I'm like, well, what do you need that in-house content writer to do? Oh, we need them to do website copy. We need them to do, headlines for ads. We need them to help with CEO thought leadership on LinkedIn. We need them to write emails. And I think they can also dedicate some time to doing SEO content. And I'm just like, did you hear what you just said? How do you think one person is going to know how to write for all these different formats and platforms and styles? How are you going to find somebody who's actually good at doing all that? What kind of person do you think is out there who can do this effectively? How much do you think you can pay a person like this that's going to be good? Generally when they say we want an in-house content generalist, they want to pay somebody very low salary to just do a bunch of busy work. It's not, specialized, high impact, high value work. Like, I'll tell you, the guys who I work with that are doing like SEO content production, the best of the best of the best, these guys are charging, $1,500 a page, and it's deep specialized work. They're reading company materials. They're interviewing people at the companies. They're talking to the subject matter experts. There's several rounds of revisions. It's deep expertise work. Like these guys are charging $1,500 per page because it's going to rank and it's going to get results. And like, that's the level of care needed to deliver something like that. And so I think I'll just leave it there. I think that's my answer.
Love it. Maybe to wrap it up, and if you guys have any remaining questions, put them in the chat now. We can try to squeeze them in. Can you speak a little bit, and this ties a little bit into what we talked about previously with talking about personal topic versus, company lessons. From your own experience, have you figured out what type of content turns into actual demand that people reach out to you and want to work with you versus maybe stuff that gets a lot of likes and stuff, but there's just crickets afterwards?
Yeah. The stuff that generates client interest, by far, not even close, is when I post about, here's the results I've gotten for another company, and here's how we did it. It's also if another client shouts me out, that automatic. Like when Cognizant CMO shouted me out, oh my God, like immediate floodgates. So those two really crush it by far more than anything else. And I think maybe the third one is teardown content. So even if I wasn't directly involved in something, like actually I'll show you guys what I posted about that got me an actual inquiry from the head of marketing at ZoomInfo, but I couldn't take the project because it was a conflict of interest. Let me just show you guys this.
It's a LinkedIn post, right?
Yeah, it was a LinkedIn
I have
post.
it. I think I have it. If this is the one.
Okay. I found it too. Yeah.
I beat you to it.
You beat me to it? Okay.
Yeah. I think
So yes. So this got me a huge amount of inquiries, huge amount. And it don't be so fixed on like the visibility of the post itself. Like it did go pretty viral. The fact that, it was a teardown of something very tactical how another company did it, why they failed, why I told my own clients not to do this, stuff like this. It's very, very, very in depth, but it's the stuff that absolutely just crushes. So
Yeah. You put the
basically
link in
more
the chat, right?
Yeah, you
I'll
can
put it in.
Yeah, I think this is it also. Yeah. So anyway, if you want to get clients from LinkedIn, this definitely is the way to do it. This makes them say, "Holy shit, I got to work with this guy."
I think it's again kind of obvious, but I'm going to point it out. I think it's a teardown where the natural conclusion is when someone reads it and they're like, "Oh shit, I want to do this or I want to avoid this." You actually offer the thing.
Yes.
Right. If you would have done a teardown of, I don't know, someone's technical product and the features that they're building, even if it would have gotten the same amount of reach, it's like, well, now I need to hire some engineer. So it's not going to lead to inbound.
It's not going to lead to inbound. Exactly.
Yeah. I kind of had something similar. One of my best posts was this post where basically said, if I was the CMO at a B2B SaaS tasked with replicating the Chris Walker, Adam Robinson playbook, here's how I would do it. And I just kind of broke down the approach of what I would do. And it did good engagement wise, but it was just like, this is kind of what we do. So like the natural conclusion, if someone read this and it resonated, was like, let's just chat with this person. So
yeah, no, exactly.
All right, we're on time. Katya also needs to jump. Gaetano, this was amazing. Thank you for your time. Thank you guys for joining. I hope it wasn't too bad for you, Gaetano. If you guys joined late, this will also go out on our website, podcast, etc. So you can listen to the whole conversation there next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.